Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Agents of Helm podcast. I hope everyone had a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. I'm joined here with my fellow agents. Johanna, say hi.
Hey.
Lorenzo,
Hey Joe, how's it going?
good. Malik,
What up, people?
and as Lorenzo stated, I'm Joe, and I'll be your moderator for today. This is Memorial Day weekend just passed, and of course X-Men came out, so we're definitely going to dive into X-Men. But before we get started, our newest agent, Johanna, has had a near life death experience and that she wants to share. So Johanna, please fill us in. What happened? Did you fall down some stairs? Did you almost get hit by a car? What happened?
I just want to say how appropriate it is that these two events happened to me, considering that my series on agentsofhelm.com is We Are All Gonna Die, no matter what we do or where we live. I learned that on Monday, so I got ready to go on a trip to the beach with my husband and my daughter. And we live off the 125th Street Station in Harlem, which will mean nothing to anybody who's listening to us outside of New York City. But as we were going down the stairs to the Green Line, Sean's going ahead of me with the baby, and we've got the stroller, and I'm trying to fold it. Unfortunately, this stroller is very petite, so it doesn't really fold all the way if there's stuff in the little undercarriage. So anyway, while I'm doing this, there's this woman, and she just starts screaming randomly, and I don't think that she's addressing me because, hey, there's crazy people talking everywhere all the time. It's New York City, and they're usually screaming, randomly. But all of a sudden, she started to use the second person, and I was just like, oh no! She's just like you, just everything you. And then all of a sudden, she starts coming, kind of coming towards me, and she's like, C is for I'm gonna cut you. And meanwhile, I am on my knees on this stroller, and I'm like, come on, engage. It's supposed to click when it's fully folded, or else it just kind of collapses on itself again. And finally I was like, F it, and I just bundled it up in my arms and just ran.
So what did this person look like?
I don't even know. It was one of those deer in the headlights moments where everything gets it's like a pinhole, and you can't see anything because all I could see is the stroller and wanting to fold it as soon as possible.
So she wanted to cut you.
Yes, apparently C is for I will cut you.
Now, did she have anything in her hands?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Okay, so you couldn't see from where you were, you couldn't see if she was packing.
I was like, I have a very high survival instinct, and I was just like, I need to get this out of here. I don't know if she was just making an idle threat, but she was making it towards me, and that was good enough for me.
What was your husband doing during this?
Oh, he was long gone with the baby. And when I came down the stairs after all that, he's like, wow, she was really laying into you, wasn't she?
He just left you there.
Yes, he did.
I guess he figured you could handle yourself with this lady. If it came to blows.
Right. Well, you had a stroller, so you could have just hit her with that.
I mean, he had my daughter, so I guess I should be fair to him. Sorry, baby. I don't mean to, Well, he also does not it does not come out in a good light in the next story either.
Well, do tell.
Well, I have to ask. Maybe she thought you were packing. Is that possible?
I maybe had it in the undercarriage, and I was
maybe you had a machete under there. And you go pull it out.
I just don't
Joe,
know.
you watch Lone Wolf and Cub. Have you read the comic book? But you've definitely watched the series Lone Wolf and Cub.
Yes, I've definitely seen the series. Yes.
You can put a lot of stuff in a baby carriage.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. That's what she probably thought. That woman was probably scared for her life because you had the baby carriage.
I don't know, this extremely tired, nerdy person in glasses trying to fold her stroller. I mean, it's a far stretch to imply that I'm some sort of deadly Viper squad assassin.
Okay.
I mean, I
If
wonder
you say so.
if C is for I'm gonna cut you. I really wonder what A and B were for. I wonder what A and B meant. Like,
A is for assault with a deadly weapon.
like I
B
don't
is
know
for
how to
bat.
do it. I'm like, wait, miss. How did we get all the way to C? What did I do for A and B? How do we make it all the way to C? We just jumped over those two letters and made it to the fact that you're getting ready to cut me?
Well, Cookie Monster has this song called C is for Cookie. So maybe, she saw the stroller. It sparks a memory from her childhood. Who knows?
That's a crazy thought. She was clearly not watching Sesame Street. The
No.
child was like, that girl was watching The Wire.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Oh,
Or she was watching what was that movie from the '90s with the girls? La Vida Loca. That's what she was watching. The girls were spitting out
The
blades
razor.
from their mouth. She's like,
The Vaseline on the face.
yeah, Vaseline. That's what she. Yeah, you watch yourself.
I should have worn like my chola lipstick, my chola
Yeah,
liner,
get that
and
dark lipstick.
Sharpie eyebrows,
There you go.
Yeah. So,
And what happened? What happened next?
okay.
What was?
The train ride was uneventful. We got to the beach. The beach was lovely. And we were just laid out, and my husband asked me if he's like, hey, did you only bring sour cream and onion potato chips? And I was like, yes, that's all I brought because they're to prevent dehydration, and my daughter likes them. So, like, as I was saying that, like, this gigantic beach umbrella just started coming towards me, like, puncture point first, that part that's really sharp that goes into the sand.
Mm-hmm.
And it's coming towards me, and I'm thinking, this is how I'm going to die. It's like, this is it. I don't think that your whole life flashes in front of your eyes. I think really it's like, this is how I'm going to die. Freaking beach umbrella coming towards me. And anytime that Sean tells anybody how I died, they're going to laugh at him.
That would be one of those things that ends up on like 1,000 Ways to Die on this.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like this is the craziest way.
But I don't think they would laugh at him, Johanna. I think they laugh under their breath. I mean, they show him some respect.
To show him respect, but it'd be a joke, and all of my enemies would be like, haha, well, it serves her right for being whatever.
Damn. Did you get enemies? Wow.
I have the C's for I will cut you, lady. I mean, I think my death might turn her life around. Like, she's like, oh, well, she got killed by a beach umbrella. That shows you something about the permeability of life. So it was coming towards me. I'm like, this is how I'm going to die. And, like, 2 feet away from me, some guy, like, grabs it. And it was, like, all the air, like, came back into my lungs. I'm like, oh. And the guy was like, hey, looks like I just saved your life. Like, yep. And I was able to give my husband a good, like, ribbing about how his last words to me would have been, did you only bring sour cream and onion potato chips?
As the umbrella is darting towards you at how fast would you say it was going?
It was
50 miles an hour?
Well, I mean, it was the moment before my death. So, the time was dilated. So I can't really tell how long it was. It might have been 10 seconds. I think it was probably 10 seconds or something. I think that guy had the reflexes of a wildcat.
So basically, was it like just a windy day, and that's?
Well, it happened to us. It almost happened to us too, except our umbrella inverted itself. It gave up on life because it was too windy.
Mm.
So, and then somebody else's umbrella like almost came loose, and that at that point the lifeguard had had enough, and he went over to that person and told them that they needed to secure the umbrella, or else they needed to just put it down.
Okay.
Yeah. I also,
No, I was saying it sounded like your day was like a full on episode of Final Destination.
it's not over yet.
Like,
There's more?
there were
Yeah.
so many moments where you could have died. Death is clearly like, what the fuck, man?
It's like lucky sevens or something. I don't know. My star sign is in the right, part of the sky. I don't know. But then the next thing was I did not almost die, but I saw someone almost die. So had a really nice day at the beach. No one almost died, even though we went into the ocean. The ocean felt like a frozen margarita. It was super cold.
Yeah,
And
imagine.
oh, my husband said it was the glacier falling apart. So took the train back. We're in Penn Station, and we go down the escalator, and then like all of a sudden, like when we get off, like I hear people screaming, and there's this woman, and she's like tumbling on the escalator like a piece of clothing in a in a washer or something, or a dryer, just tumbling, and like people are screaming. Someone's trying to help her, but they just can't hold on. Like my husband said, I was screaming, and I don't remember that, but it's likely because I'm thinking. Did you guys ever watch Rescue 911?
Oh,
Yes.
with
With
William Shatner.
with William Shatner, and
Yeah, no, but I did see Mallrats, and that happened. And happened in Mallrats, where
did
he
the
kept warning the woman not to let her kid sit on the escalator. But I mean, this sounds more deadly what happened to her. But yeah.
so on Rescue 911 they had an episode where this woman, like her hair got caught in the escalator, and she was slowly like being dragged into the teeth, and she was about to be scalped. So the whole thing I'm thinking this whole time. By the way, that's why I'm terrified of escalators.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm worried that like I'm gonna like fall and that my hair's gonna get caught and I'm gonna be scalped. It's a very specific fear, but considering how many times I've almost died, you can't say it's irrational of me to have these specific fears. So I was thinking the whole time, she is going to get scalped. Like, she's going to get scalped right here in front of us. Like, something terrible is going to happen, and someone's going to whip out their phone and take a YouTube video of it, and it's going to be
Instead of helping
ghastly.
her, right?
Exactly.
Well, look, to their credit, I mean, if you get a full on scalping on on your phone, you know how much money that's gonna make. I mean, seriously, you gotta have a consideration. And then after she's been scalped, there's really not much you can do unless you're a trained medical person that can that's dealt with a scalping before. There's not much you can do except record it and then maybe you can use this as a training video in future
Not to
paramedic
an escalator.
classes or something like that. I don't know.
They can use it on Rescue 911.
Somebody
Right.
has
Never
to
comes back.
somebody has to tell the story, Johanna. Someone has to tell the story.
I'm telling the story right now, and I
Right.
don't need a video.
Right, but if you had a video to go along with the tale, that's an amazing. That's even a bigger. It has even a bigger impact. That's all.
This would be an instance where the movie would be better than the book.
Yes.
Well,
Maybe.
I'm a storyteller. I
I
paint
think Johanna tells a good
pictures.
story.
Yeah, I paint pictures with words because I'm terrified of graphic pictures and video. Well, the good news is she didn't die, and someone was able to pull her up. And Sean called me Puerto Rican because I just kept staring the whole time. And he's like, come on. Like, he's like, you gotta go. I'm like, no, I want to see what happens. So, yeah.
Oh, so you were nosy too.
Oh, I'm so
You
nosy.
didn't offer any assistance, did you? You just watched.
I was like 20 feet away, 10
And you were
feet. I
taking
don't know.
notes for your story.
Yeah, I'm thinking the whole time, like, how am I reacting to this? My heart's beating, and there's something in the pit of my stomach. I have to use this. I'm going to use all of it.
Johanna, this is not agent behavior. I just want to let you know that. You're
um,
supposed to go. You're supposed to swoop in there and save that woman.
Malik is talking about videotaping it,
I'm about
though.
to say it's completely agent behavior for me. Johanna can write about it. That Johanna's the agent that will write it. I'm the agent that will profit from it. And Lorenzo can actually make the movie.
Yeah.
Can make the movie.
Lorenzo can shoot the film.
Yeah,
And
who
and,
knows
and you
what
know
he's
what? And
doing.
you know who'll save her? You know who'll save her? Taylor.
Taylor.
Taylor will be the one to save her. Just happen to be on the same train.
Yeah. Just be like, wait a minute.
She happened to be in the station at the time when it happened.
Of course.
That's great. That's a great story.
Wow. So yeah, you had an exciting Monday, exciting Memorial Day.
Yes. Yes.
Well, thank you for sharing that story, Johanna. We're glad you survived your final destination and you made it home.
I'm home. I'm here. Hopefully tomorrow. I might have jinxed it by telling this story, and tomorrow there'll be like 4 other ways I almost die.
Yeah, death is moving through that airplane. So it's moving through the seats. So you find yourself a safe place.
I intend to.
All right. Cool. All right. So now it's time to get to the meat of this podcast, where we talk about X-Men: Days of Future Past. All right. We all saw it this weekend, and we're all gonna give our opinions and voice our likes and dislikes. But before you do that, let me give a quick, well, hopefully it's quick, a quick movie synopsis for you. And I'm not going to do the whole movie, but we'll just, get it going. So from what I gather, they never really give an actual year, but from what I could tell, just doing the math, that the movie starts about 10 years in the future with the following X-Men. We have Blink, Bishop, Iceman, Kitty Pryde. Who's the guy that does the fire? I couldn't remember his name. Anybody know what his name was?
Not entirely sure.
Yeah, me either.
I really meant to look it up.
I meant to look it up too, and
I wasn't sure.
forgot.
I wasn't sure if it was Sunfire or not. It could have been
The
Sunfire.
guy wasn't Japanese, but yeah. But
Whatever. Yeah. Okay. Like continuity is there.
yeah. We'll get into that, Malik. Don't jump ahead.
Okay. It could have been Sunfire, but he didn't fly, and that was my whole point. I was like,
Right,
okay,
he didn't
that's
fly.
Sunfire. That's.
It
I
was,
wasn't sure.
yeah, he was just blowing fire. He couldn't be Pyro because Pyro doesn't turn on fire.
Right.
But anyway, I called him Fire Guy. Colossus, Warpath, Professor X, Magneto, Storm, and of course, it's not an X-Men movie if you don't have Wolverine. Right? It's got to be Wolverine, So they're when it starts out, they're combating Sentinels in this abandoned warehouse, and the X-Men are just getting annihilated. They're dropping like flies. I did like the fight though. I mean, I loved Blink's power, where she's just opening portals left and right. It was really cool the way they were just jumping in and out, trying to dodge the Sentinels, but to no avail because it just was not enough. Then we see Kitty Pryde and Bishop, running for their lives. They hide in this room, and Kitty Pryde is able to, and this was news to me. I didn't know she could do this, where she can take the consciousness of someone and send it back in time, which is what she was doing with Bishop. It was all new to me. I didn't realize she could do that. I've been reading X-Men for years, and and they never mention it in any of the previous movies. But
no, just a quick segue. She doesn't mention it in the movie, but in one of the documentaries, one of those kind of promo things where they talk to her, she indicates that her powers are one of the powers that she has advanced to that point where she can do this, where this is something that she can actually do now. So
Well, you mean the actress Ellen Page is talking about the
the
character?
actress is talking about
Oh,
the
okay.
character and talking about like some of the advancements of her abilities and her powers in particular.
Per
Um,
the script.
right. For the
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's terribly contrived if it's not somehow
Yeah.
woven into the movie, and that kind of annoys me.
well,
Yeah.
nobody else is able to do something better
Yeah.
than what they normally do.
Yeah. Yeah. So they really heightened her powers a lot for this movie. But anyway, she sends Bishop's consciousness back in time so they can this way avoid this confrontation with the Sentinels in the future. um, so after they've done that, they've Bishop, after she sends the consciousness back in time, they're able to avoid this confrontation in the abandoned warehouse. And instead, they meet up with Professor X and Magneto in China, of all places, China. Okay, and then Professor X they hatch a plan to send Professor X's mind back in time, back to 1973. But of course, Professor X's mind can't handle it. This trip is going to be too strenuous for him. His mind is going to get ripped apart. Now, who do we know whose mind could possibly handle getting ripped apart and getting repaired all at the same time? Wolverine, of course. So they Professor X and Magneto, they decide they're going to send Wolverine back because he's the only one whose mind that could take the ripping and repair itself at the same time.
Well, he's
So
the only one there in the room.
yeah, he's the only one there in the room.
Yeah, there's no one else. There are other mutants that could possibly do this, but
Yeah, they can't repair their mind. They can't repair their mind in time as it's getting ripped.
Well, there's other
So-
mutants with this healing factor, but like Deadpool.
Right, he's the only one in the room. Right, there's no Deadpool, there's no
Exactly.
Sabretooth around, right? So
The only
yeah,
one that wasn't
it's Wolverine, right? So they decide they're gonna send Wolverine back. Professor X and Magneto say, hey, when you get back there, you got to look us up because we got to work together to stop this future. So Wolverine goes back. He goes back to 1973, and this is 10 years after the events of First Class. And it's also prior to Wolverine getting his adamantium, so we get a Wolverine that has bone claws that come out. And really, we only get to see him a few times in the movie. You see him when he first goes back, and then you really don't see him that much after that. So he gets back. He gets into a little scuffle with some gangsters. We won't get too much detail about that. He locates Professor X, who's now powerless, and he's living with Hank McCoy / Beast in the mansion. So, you see Professor X he's walking, first of all, which I don't believe they ever got into at the end of First Class. He's just he's crippled. But we see him, he's walking, and it's because Hank has given him some kind of, what do they call it? Some kind of...
Serum.
Serum, yes, thank you, Johanna. Some serum that alters his DNA, which allows him to work, but at the same time takes away his powers. So, powerless Charles Xavier is no good to anybody. But anyway, Wolverine manages to convince Charles Xavier that he is from the future and that he needs his help, and they need to spring Magneto out of prison, and where a prison that is 100 stories below the Pentagon. And they're all looking around like, oh, we can't do that. We don't have that kind of power. You're not gonna get in there. So who does Wolverine say he's going to go get? He's not called Quicksilver in this movie. I'm assuming it's because they have a Quicksilver in the Avengers universe over there. He's just called Peter or Petey Maximoff. And everybody who knows he's Quicksilver. They gave him the silver hair and everything. He's the only one fast enough to get past Pentagon security and free Magneto. So they free Magneto, they escape, and this is when Magneto gets freed. This is when everything really gets rolling. We learn that Mystique is on her own. She goes out to Vietnam. She frees some, mutant prisoners. Not prisoners. They're mutant enlistees in the army, but they're going to be used by Colonel Stryker as experiments So she rescues them, and now she's on a full-out attack on Bolivar Trask, who wants to build the Sentinels and was rejected by Congress. His Sentinel program was rejected by Congress, but Mystique finds out that he's been experimenting on mutants, and now she wants to kill him. She kills him. This is going to bring about their future. So the rest of the movie is Wolverine, Magneto, Beast, and Charles Xavier trying to find Mystique and stop her from killing Bolivar Trask. And that's basically it. And then you watch, you go into the future, you see them trying to keep Wolverine alive, and they're defending themselves against the Sentinels. It was, I don't want to get too much into detail with it because we'll talk about that in a few minutes with the rest of the team. But yeah, I mean, I liked it. It was a really good movie, although there are a ton of continuity issues, which we will get into. But what you guys think, Malik? Start with you.
So, I like the movie. I definitely like the movie. I enjoyed it. A couple of things that I truly liked about it. If she couldn't make Jennifer Lawrence makes an amazing Mystique. She is now quite possibly one of my favorite actresses. There's a scene in the film where she she hides herself as Bolivar Trask and breaks into his I guess his facility or whatever, and she gets into his safe, and where he has these pictures of all these mutants, and you see her looking at like images of her friends and people, I guess mutants that she's known and what's happened to the and she like tears up, and like you can really like I felt the emotion coming from the character, and I really truly believed like she was fully on board with everything that she was doing. She was absolutely great as Mystique. And I was actually really happy with the fact that although Wolverine appears to be a central character in the movie, they didn't make him. He clearly wasn't like the catalyst of anything that was really going on. He was kind of a bystander amongst all of this stuff that was happening. So I did like the fact that his impact was relatively muted, which is good because to me, Wolverine has always appeared as a character who is, he's everywhere because he's always willing to be there for the fight. But there are moments that are too big for him, for even him. And in this movie, what was going on and the mutants involved in it, Wolverine couldn't match with the likes of a Magneto, even a Mystique. And just the size of the issue, and so I'm really now at this point after both the Wolverine and now this movie, I'm finally on board with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Like I wasn't for 5 or 6 movies, and I now am perfectly fine with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. And just right around the time where he's gonna like no longer do it after the next X-Men movie. But and then the other thing I really just liked is just. They were able to, with a couple of scenes, they were able to completely divorce you from that debacle that was X-Men: The Last Stand. They were able to take that and just say, okay, that didn't happen. By the end of the movie, you're like, okay, so all these people that had died in the X-Men: Last Stand movie, they are now alive again. So X-Men: Last Stand didn't actually happen, and we're back in this time frame. That's awesome. So I was definitely on board for those things. Well, I'll get into the things that I didn't like about it later as we talk about stuff like continuity and everything. But for the most part, it was a very entertaining movie. It was a lot of fun. The action sequences were good. I thought the acting was very well done. And James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, all those guys reprised their roles pretty well. And it was well paced. It didn't feel like a really long movie, although it was over 2 hours. And there were no like lost parts of the film. There were no like moments to me. There were no like moments in the movie where you were like, wow, they could have cut that piece out and we would have still been able to get like everything seemed like it moved well and the pace was fine. And everything that happened in the future was awesome as well. I really enjoyed. And Storm finally got a good Storm finally showed she could do something for once in her godforsaken mutant life. So it was great. I liked it. I did enjoy it.
Cool. Lorenzo, what you got?
Excuse me. Well, I didn't really understand what was going on at the beginning. So they like were trying to do like some sort of heist, and then it failed, and so then they sent messages back to their earlier versions of themselves. I didn't understand the opening sequence.
No, they were hiding out. They were hiding out.
And they
They were
got
hiding from the
caught.
Sentinels.
So their
And
way of escaping is to go into the past and warn themselves that they were going to get caught.
Yeah.
yes, that's what Kitty Pryde was doing with Bishop when she was holding her hands next to his head, and that's what she was feeding him the information to his past self, so they would avoid going to that warehouse.
I don't think she was feeding him any information. She was just sending him back there. He already knew what was going on.
Yeah, but I'm saying so when she would send it back, I mean, he has to go back with that information so they don't go to that warehouse.
No, no, no. So what happens is they're already there. He tells them when the Sentinels are coming, that the Sentinels are coming, and then they leave. So that he's not. It's not that they're not. It's not that. It's not that she's sending them to a time where they never make it to that warehouse, so that they just never go in. She sends him to a time where he can warn them that the Sentinels are coming, and when the
Right.
Sentinels are coming, so that they have enough time to get out.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you get my point. It's a little convoluted. I mean, I liked watching them die. I have a problem with that, though. The fact that they actually did die. Like those guys actually died. Like you see that in I don't know, different things. You guys ever play Borderlands 2?
No.
Mm-mm.
Malik?
I've seen it. I haven't played it.
So Borderlands 2, they have like these machines that will spawn you again. So once you die, you get sort of like in Battlestar Galactica, Johanna.
Yeah, I mean, in Battlestar Galactica, like, technically the Cylon never dies. Like, they leave that body, so to speak. I don't even know if it's a soul or something. That's one of the mystical aspects of the show. But when the Cylon dies, they are resurrected on a resurrection ship, and they're basically in a new body. But they have the same memories and the same feelings.
Yeah, but
How
in my
is that?
mind, they actually.
So?
But in my mind, they actually kind of do die because they are dead, and they might download the consciousness and upload it into a different body, and that body might think that it was the old body, but the old consciousness ended because the body died. I feel like it's the same thing with the X-Men. Like they actually die. There's another version of that X-Man who didn't die, but that X-Man totally died, which kind of sucks for them. And then I don't really. It seems like there might be easier ways to do it if you're able to travel in time. I don't know. The whole thing was just kind of confusing to me. Maybe I'm just time travel in general just confuses me. I don't like all the uncertainty of like the paradoxes and having to kill your own grandfather, never existing. Like the whole multiverse thing. Somewhere there is this really crappy universe where Sentinels are in charge. Whether or not they fix it, there's still that universe somewhere because there are people living in it. Yeah, so the whole like rewriting history thing, I'm just not a big fan. You know me in general, I don't like people getting resurrected. I mean, I know that's a staple of comic books, but I just would rather people stay dead.
Well, they're not getting resurrected.
Unless they come back as zombies. Well, yeah, what's her face is now alive.
Jean Grey.
Yeah, Jean Grey
Well,
is
if she's
now
not
alive.
resurrected, the timeline has changed, so those events don't occur.
I just said that, but they actually did occur, and so there is a world, there is a universe in the multiverse where Jean Grey is dead. And this is just another universe where she's alive. That's the same thing they did in Star Trek, where there's a universe where Captain Kirk is there as and Spock is, there's that universe, and then there's the universe that now we're in where it's just a different universe. I mean, Singer even talks about how he went and talked to, for some reason, James Cameron about the whole thing about multiverses and different dimensions and stuff.
Huh.
And then in general, I thought the plot was just kind of a stretch. Like, when I think of minds, melting or breaking or whatever, I think it's more psychological and not so much physiological. And just that in general, I mean, it just seemed like a really uh, convoluted. I'm gonna use the word again. Convoluted explanation for why Wolverine is the one traveling back in time and not what's her name,
Kitty Pryde.
Yeah. So I found that to be kind of a stretch. I'm not a really big fan of when they just make something up just to explain. I mean, I get that Wolverine is a big box office draw, and so he's the one that they would send back. But I mean, would you really want to put that kind of diplomatic responsibilities into Wolverine's hands? No, of course not. And he does a spot, right on job. I mean, I really like Quicksilver. I'll tell you that much. He was really funny. I enjoyed the great scene where he's just running through the taking out all the cops. You kind
That
of
was
think
amazing.
if this kid could just stick with them, they could pretty much do anything, and they could probably take care of like every problem that there is in this whole storyline if Wolverine would have just stuck around for a while. Yeah, I mean, it was really long. I fell asleep during towards the end, uh, just because I mean, I don't know. Like around the time when Magneto was controlling the Sentinels and they were invading the little hideout in the future, yeah, I just kind of dozed off. It just seemed like it was
So,
a little
let me get this straight. So
formulated.
you didn't like the movie?
No, I liked it. It was okay.
I'm confused. Now I'm confused.
I liked Quicksilver. I thought I like it's kind of like Spider-Man, where I just like to watch Spider-Man. I just like to watch Peter Dinklage. Dinklage,
Peter
whatever his name is.
Dinklage.
I just like watching him. He's just fun to watch. So there's definitely it was some there were some nice roles being played. The storyline, whenever you get into that whole thing, it's kind of a turnoff for me. The whole moving through time and making up silly reasons for things to be happening. I mean, they weren't saying that like your brain will like literally fall apart. They were saying that like it's too much for your psyche to handle. Is from what I got, which is just stupid in itself. Like, what does that even mean? They're just making up silly reasons for things to happen. And I found that there was a little bit of that going on in the movie.
Well, humanity hasn't figured out a way to send people back to the past yet. So I think any story you can come up with to engineer to make it sound like you can send someone to the past or to their past self. Yeah, make that until you can prove that it can be done. So.
Well, yeah, Malik. But I guess what I'm saying is that like, okay, but why Wolverine?
Because because physically,
like said,
his body could take it.
The actual explanations they give for why Wolverine is silly.
It
was
was
originally in the comic book. It was originally Kitty Pryde, and they just, of course, they wanted to go with Wolverine because he's Wolverine.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, it was anything to get Wolverine in the story as opposed to anyone else. Giving the reason that the other mutants in the room's minds couldn't handle being ripped, and Wolverine could handle it because he could repair himself. But
yeah, I mean, but he can repair himself physically, and they're not talking about physically. I don't think.
Yeah, they are talking about physically.
It's physically, mentally.
Not. Come on, guys. It's not just the brain that's going to rip apart. It's the whole body that would rip apart. Why just the brain?
That's what she said. She said transferring your consciousness from going back that far is literally going to tear your brain apart.
No, that's
And
not what she
so
meant.
that's what she said. Those were her exact words.
She didn't say
But that,
literally tear your brain apart. Those were not her
well,
exact
well,
words.
her words were just, it was going to basically rip the brain apart.
No,
And
not the brain, the mind. There's a difference.
Well, if that
That guy's name is Sunspot.
yeah, Sunspot is
It was
the
Sunspot. Okay,
yeah.
Dan, from the New Mutants. Yes. Okay.
well, if that was the case, though, then Professor X should have been the one because, in
Yeah,
my
totally.
opinion,
Professor X should have been the
yeah.
one, honestly, because he's the one that could probably most likely handle, the madness that would ensue by going so far back in the past.
He said he couldn't handle it.
I know, of course because the script said that he couldn't handle
I
it.
know. I know. I'm not arguing with you there. Yes, you're absolutely right. Johanna, get in there. What do you think?
Uh, sure. I like a lot of the things that we've already been talking about. Quicksilver was a gem at the beginning of the film. Just he was just so funny and interesting, and for someone who was really into the joy of having his powers. I liked the chemistry between like Wolverine, young Magneto, young Professor X, and young Beast. I really liked seeing Professor X's Isaac Newton moment, just in that mansion wearing like a smoking jacket and really not giving a fuck. Um, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the movie very much. Like Malik said, I didn't notice that it was so long because I was entertained consistently. But I had a huge, huge issue with the diversity in the film. And I think making the movie so Wolverine centric is like it's both like the disease and the symptom. For example, at the beginning of the film, we are introduced to, I think it was like 3 mutants of color. It was Blink, it was Bishop, and it was Warpath. So you're like, wow, like there's an Asian mutant, there's a Native American mutant, there's another black mutant, and then there's Storm. And then they're really not featured in the film at all. Like they're kind of just furniture. And meanwhile, for the majority of the film, we get what is basically a film about 4 white guys and 1 woman. And it's like a sausage fest. There are no other women in the 70s portion of the film. And the women who are mostly featured in the future segments, one of them barely has it. Well, none of them have barely any lines. Like Kitty Pryde is technically a focal point of that storyline, but she doesn't have a lot of lines, and she's basically like this vessel. Like she's just doing something, and she really doesn't have any agency. And then Storm, I was glad to see Storm do some stuff, but I wasn't altogether pleased with what a small role she had, especially now that I've been reading a little bit of the comics. I noticed that it's a discrepancy that's especially glaring. So it feels weird because yes, I did find it entertaining, but the diversity was really hard to swallow that in 2014 you're introducing characters of color and being like, well, whatever, who cares about them? They're just window dressing. When we have had shows like Heroes and Lost, and I'm sure you guys can think of so many other wonderful shows, science fiction or otherwise, or fantasy, that have a completely diverse set of characters. It's like, why is this still kind of acceptable in 2014? So that's kind of what I felt.
We have to think back that the majority of the storyline takes place in '73, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess they're just going with the times because back then there wasn't too many. Most of the movies were not diverse, right?
I mean, I feel like that's kind of a cop out on their part.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean, it seemed like they just pretty much went with the cast that
yeah,
First Class, like so, they weren't when they were in the past, they weren't interested in introducing a lot of new characters other than the villains. So, other than Trask and pretty much that's it. Like Trask was pretty much the only and Stryker. But Stryker, you already, if you've watched the other X-Men movies, you've already met Stryker. This is just a younger version of that of William Stryker. So they didn't really have any interest in introducing the newer characters, any newer characters in the '70s. But I do agree that they did kind of leave out the all the female characters that were in the future, with the exception of Blink. I did like the action sequences with Blink and how she was able to kind of work alongside Warpath.
That was awesome.
I thought that was great. Like her ability to kind of blast them in and out of the sequences so that the Sentinels couldn't get to them. I thought her character in the future, I thought she had the best action sequences in the entire movie. So
I thought she was great too. And I thought, like Joe mentioned, the special effects and just the way that she was able to make those portals was awesome, which is why it was such a bummer that there's no backstory there. You're introduced to this mutant, she has this awesome power, and then she's kind of like never mentioned again. She's there, she's in that final battle against the Sentinels, but there's no backstory there. There's no development, her or Bishop or Warpath, and I thought that they were really interesting.
Yeah, the problem is they had them in the future, and the movie's not about the future, right? It's about stopping that future. So
yeah, but
most of the movies in '73, and they occasionally flash to the future for like a few minutes, and then they're right back.
We got like Iceman. We got Iceman all over there. The characterization doesn't take that much,
Right, but we've been introduced to Iceman since the beginning.
Yeah.
Since the very first X film, so you know Iceman, Kitty Pryde, Xavier, Magneto, Storm, and Wolverine. Then they threw a bunch of these newer characters in, Warpath, Blink, Sunspot, and they also have Colossus there. He's not new, but those three new ones where you really need to read the comic book to even know who they are.
So. It sounds like maybe the inclusion of those characters was like a bit of an Easter egg for the comic book fans.
You mean the characters that they added in the future?
Yeah.
Well, so Kitty. Most of them, like Joe said, most of them have actually already, with the exception of Sunspot and Blink.
And Warpath.
And Warpath. Well, yeah, Sunspot, Blink, Warpath, and Bishop. But anybody, but the Days of Future Past storyline, or as it was called, Lorenzo, can you tell me again, what was it called in the comics? It wasn't Days of Future Past.
Yeah, it was.
Was
That's
it?
what it was called.
Yeah.
Okay.
Days of Future Past.
The Days of Future Past storyline included Bishop then too.
No.
I think it didn't. Okay. I think.
No, you think of like now I don't want to say a remake of the story, but the original storyline does not include Bishop, Warpath, Blink. Doesn't include any of those guys. Doesn't even include Magneto. The original storyline only includes Mystique and the new Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, which is the Blob, Pyro, Avalanche, Destiny, and the X-Men at that time, which were Wolverine, Colossus, Storm, Angel, Nightcrawler, and of course Kitty Pryde. And she was like brand new to the X-Men at the time.
So what was the storyline? Okay. So what was the storyline that they used in the X-Men television show when Bishop comes back from the future? He comes back to the past, and he believes that Gambit is the killer of the president, if I'm not mistaken, and that starts the entire thing that basically melds into his future.
I can't remember why Bishop comes from the. I know Bishop comes from the future to stop an event, but I can't remember.
He comes to stop the assassination of the president.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was, but that's not Days of Future Past, though.
Okay, well that's what I kind of thought that this was feeding into. Was kind of coming from that storyline. At least that's what it felt like. Because in that storyline, you had Bishop coming to the past or coming to the present day, from the future, trying to stop an assassination, which was going to, which if that assassination actually occurred, I'm thinking that, and I believe it was the assassination of the president. If that assassination had occurred, it would kick off the events of the time
Where Bishop lives.
where he comes from, and he believes it to be Gambit, and he goes after trying to kill Gambit. And of course, at this point, Gambit is a member of the X-Men. He's swearing up and down that this is not going to be him. He is not the person that's going to kill. And then you find out, through watching the comic, through watching the cartoon, you find out that the person that's actually going to kill the president is Mystique, playing Gambit.
Okay.
Disguised as Gambit,
And
and so that's where I thought that they were coming from with this storyline. I thought that they were taking it from that storyline from that cartoon. But I was trying to remember what the name of that run or that arc was in relation to it. I didn't think it was Days of Future Past, but okay.
Yeah, the actual comics, which are X-Men 141, 142, which is a very long time ago, which is the original Days of Future Past.
Okay.
So we'll talk about the differences in a little while between the comic and the actual movie. So from the movie, first question I have about this movie is, why is Professor X there? Right? How the hell is he there? I could have sworn I saw him get killed in The Last Stand. Now I know his consciousness was put into another body.
Yep.
But that is not the body he is in this movie. So how is he even there? That's one question I have. I would like to ask Bryan Singer, how the hell is he there? Because he really shouldn't be.
Well,
if he is there, he should be in another body.
And Bryan Singer's answer to you should be, well, I didn't direct Days.
Yeah, I didn't. Ask Brett Ratner. Is that what you're going to tell me?
Crap.
Yeah. So I want to know what happened to him there. The key of Mystique, the fact that Mystique is the missing key to the Sentinels, I wasn't crazy about it. It seemed like similar thing to Wolverine having to go back in the past. It seemed like they had to, Jennifer Lawrence is playing Mystique, and they needed to make her a vital part in the movie. So hence the Sentinels need Mystique's DNA to so they can get that ability to morph. The Sentinels get the ability to morph and change their outer shell to protect them against various different attacks from different mutants. I didn't care much for that. But you know what? I just went with it. Not much you could do there. I wasn't. I wasn't really buying that. I don't see how they make the metal change and do stuff like that. But this technology, they can do whatever. But it seemed like just a way to make Jennifer Lawrence's character vital in the movie. And the other thing is, why did she have to act alone? I mean, she had just rescued Alex Summers, Havoc, in Vietnam. Why couldn't he join her? Why couldn't she start her own Brotherhood of Evil Mutants? That's what I would have loved to have seen that than just have her be alone. But as we could see at the end of the movie, I guess the reason why is because she ends up being the good guy right at the end. So spoiler alert.
I mean,
she ends up saving the president at the end, right? So and Magneto turns out to be the bad guy, and because he's always the bad guy.
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
Because he seemed to be playing nice for a lot of that 70s storyline, and then all of a sudden he was just like, deuces, I'm out of here and I'm going to cause some shit. And I'm not sure, like, what was the event that precipitated that?
Well, the event that precipitates it is when he tries to kill Mystique and they stop him,
Oh, okay.
So his real goal is, his initial goal is, yes, so he's on board until then. He's on board until they try to kill until he tries to kill Mystique. They stop him, and then he realizes that they have her blood, and because of the bullet, they have her blood anyway, And so now he's like, all right, so now I got to kill them all. So, so he just decides, you know what, screw it. I just got to go kill them all because they have the blood, so it's going to happen regardless. So I got to go take everybody out.
But it was his fault that they got the blood.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
it was his fault. And I'm glad you brought that scene up because, again, anytime you need Wolverine the most is when you can't count on him in any of these X-Men movies. Again, they get ready to take on Mystique, and what happens? His mind starts acting up, and he falls on the floor. He's completely no use to anybody there. Magneto's trying to kill Mystique, and what's Wolverine? He's on the floor. Right? In the final fight, when they're trying to stop Magneto, what happens? Magneto sends him into the Potomac River, to the bottom of the Potomac River. And again, he's a total non-factor in the final fight, as always, with Wolverine. So unless you're just some kind of Joe Schmo or some kind of thug, at least in the X-Men movies, Wolverine is no danger to you.
Which I think is actually great. I mean, ideally, I think it's great because that is essentially who Wolverine is. He's a foot soldier that's really good at fighting a horde of, bad guys, and he can take a whole bunch of shots and he can take a whole bunch of bullets. But when it comes down to mutant on mutant, big moments in big situations, he ain't winning. Okay, he's not winning those matches. Like Magneto is clearly, going to take him out. There is no way that Wolverine should stand a chance against Magneto in any situation, which is one of the reasons why X-Men: The Last Stand is like the worst movie ever. Because, yeah, that whole him fighting Jean Grey and Magneto at the same time thing, yeah, whatever. It's not happening.
Terrible.
He couldn't even beat Mystique in the first X-Men.
The whole thing with Magneto not shooting Kennedy or shooting Kennedy, and then Kennedy being a mutant.
That was like weird.
First of all, what mutant powers did John F. Kennedy have? And second of all, why couldn't Magneto stop a bullet? Like, that made no sense.
Personally.
Like, he changed the direction of the bullet, but...
He was trying to change the direction of the bullet.
No, he did change the direction of the bullet.
No, then he got tackled, is what he said.
According to Kevin Costner, he changed the direction of the bullet. So what, he just changed the direction of the bullet after... I think, according to Kevin Costner, the bullet went one way, changed direction, and then killed John F. Kennedy. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't know, but it just didn't make any sense. Come on, guys. It made no sense.
His mutant power was with the ladies. That's the only thing I can think of.
There you go. With Marilyn Monroe, ask her about the mutant power. She could tell you.
It was just stupid.
I think all the Kennedys are mutants anyway, so it's okay.
Lorenzo, you keep saying you like this movie, but yet I haven't heard anything positive from you about it.
Yeah, I agreed with Johanna about Quicksilver. I like Quicksilver. And I like Peter Dinklage.
Dinklage.
Whatever the hell his name is.
Just call him Tyrion.
Oh, by the way, can I mention how happy I am that he's getting work? Like, Peter Trask didn't necessarily have to be a little person, but they didn't typecast him. Like they cast him because he's an amazing actor.
Yeah, he's definitely. I mean, he's been in a lot, and I'm really happy that they've. The only thing I remember him being cast as a little actor in recent was Elf. Remember him in Elf?
No.
He's in Elf for a very brief, probably one of the funniest scenes in that movie, where Will Ferrell plays an elf from, I guess, from the North Pole, comes down to find, I guess, his dad? Did he come out to find his real dad or something like that? I can't remember exactly what he gets to. But anyway, he
came down to find his real dad, yeah.
He comes down to find his real dad. He finds out he was adopted, and that's why he's up there, and he's not, little like all the other elves. And he's, looking for his real dad. He goes into this boardroom, and Peter Dinklage is in the boardroom, and he's clearly one of the main board members or whatever. And of course, Will Ferrell comes in, and he's like, "Hey, how'd you get back from the North Pole?" And he's talking to him hey, Santa let you out too? And Peter Dinklage is like, "Wait, what are you talking about?" And he's literally berating him, and Peter Dinklage goes off and beats the crap out of him. And so it to me, it's my favorite scene in that entire movie. It's one of my favorite Christmas movies.
What was up with the stadium? Why did he drop a stadium on them?
So no one can get in.
So no one could get in. It was a barrier.
It was a
Why?
barrier for
Why?
everybody else.
There's a
Why?
barrier so the cops in the army couldn't get in.
The cops in the army that he could just toss around because they're all wearing metal. Like,
Yeah, but why bother with it? He didn't have to
when you
bother with
why
them because now
bother
they've
with
been.
it when you can just drop a stadium around you? I don't
Yeah.
know. It just seems easier just to like throw everybody 100 feet in the air, or like do
Well,
like a Magneto push and knock everybody back like a mile.
He did a
well,
push. He dropped the stadium on him.
he was all about creating the moment. So
Yeah.
you kind of can't have all the cameras focused on the situation and broadcast it to the world. Sadly, this is in 1973 because if it had been in 2014, all you would have needed is one person with a camera phone, and that would have been it. And Magneto could have been like, "Are you guys getting this?" He could have just stolen somebody's iPhone, brought it over and had it hovering in the air while he shot the president and all of those people, and that would have been the end of it. It would have been hilarious, but.
I love
Why
how that.
why was he shooting the president?
He was gonna kill. He was gonna kill Trask. That was the main goal. He wanted to kill Trask, and then he was going to kill the president as well.
Like, how hard would it be to kill Trask if you're Magneto?
He was going to kill him.
Right, he had to make it a spectacle.
Yeah.
He had to kill him with the Sentinels.
Yes. He was gonna use their own project against him, their own weapon against him.
But I mean, that would just kick off a war, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
He was trying
Yeah,
to
he
do.
was ready for a war.
Clearly, he was no longer on board with the stop the assassination, stop the war situation any longer. Like once he realized that the bullet, they had Mystique's blood and that they were going to be able to still do everything that Trask wanted to do with the Sentinels, and the future was still going to happen the way that they were trying to stop. He basically deduced that, well, it won't happen if I murder them all. So he just pretty much was like, I kill them all, then and I'm not gonna worry about it. Then the
Like,
world.
when you say all, you mean all of humanity?
No, the entire
Everybody
everybody in the
in
U.S.
that
government.
bunker.
Everybody in that bunker, because pretty much those were the people. Obviously the Congress and presidency. They are the ones.
But like
finance.
all the leaders of all the countries in all the world, basically.
Yeah. So
Anybody that
exactly.
would be a threat.
I'm
No,
gonna
but
kill
not
all the
everybody had
army.
that technology. Not everybody knew.
He's gonna kill all the army, kill like just everybody's armies and everybody that might have a gun. He's just gonna start this whole war by himself. I mean, that's the only logical next step, right? If he was successful, because he's basically starting a war with all normal people.
Yeah.
But what
Theoretically,
happened
he can
is
win it anyway.
That's
what
kind of
would
what he did in, was it X-Men 2 or X-Men
He
the
wasn't.
Last Stand.
Yeah,
The Last Stand?
Yeah, he
Which
just would have built another army. If he would have been successful killing them off, the Sentinel program probably still would have went on, and then he would have built his army of mutants to take on the rest of humanity.
With who? Who would have?
Who?
Who would
I
have?
don't know.
No, I'm saying who would have been able to continue the Sentinel program?
I don't know. Somebody comes around, and the way it is. Somebody would have come around to take over.
Maybe
You
that
don't
striker
You don't
dude.
need a sentinel, you just need a sniper. Or a ninja.
To kill Magneto?
A sniper to kill Magneto, sure.
The guy who could stop bullets?
He can't stop a bullet if he doesn't know it's coming.
No, he seems to know. He seems to know it's always coming.
Well, yeah, he does have a magnetic field, which is what allows him to fly.
Yeah.
A magnetic.
Alright, but so you're saying he's always anytime metal comes anywhere near him, it just flies away from him?
He can sense metal,
He can sense it.
he can sense metal. Like that's how he knows. That's how when the first time he meets Wolverine, he can sense, he can actually feel the metal inside of Wolverine.
But it's a bullet. It's going really fast. And anyway, okay, look. See this watch? My watch? It's made out of
we know.
ceramic.
We know the watch.
Ceramic.
It didn't come with instructions. We know.
Ceramic.
Well, I mean, clearly they had the technology.
Well, they killed him with a. She shot him with what, a plastic bullet or whatever it was.
Yeah, they had those bullets. I don't know. It just
Plastic
seems
bullets.
like there's easier ways to kill a mutant if you want to really kill a mutant.
Yeah, he was willing to start this war. Willing to get it all done. And he was probably figuring that if I kill all of these guys and it's on camera and all the world leaders out there can see it, they can see me lift a damn stadium and put the stadium around and then kill all of them, they're probably just going to give up. And if they don't, that's fine because I'm ready to fight them anyway. So
Yeah, I don't even think like giving up, was. I don't even know if he considered that. I think for him it's just like, fuck it, like this is a show of my power, and now you're gonna know what you're dealing with, and that's it. Like, let's do this thing. It's very Magneto. At least I haven't read the comic books, but just from the movies, that's the sense that I get from him.
Mm-hmm.
Magneto is all about homo superior, and he wants to prove it at any chance he gets.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think that Peter Dinkler was right.
Now you're just doing it on purpose.
Yeah, seriously.
Go.
Peter Dinklage. Dinklage?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of think Peter Dinklage was right. Like, I mean, it's true. Mutants present like a threat to mankind, and you just gotta take it to the extreme and just wipe them motherfuckers out.
Yeah, but
they're like people. There's good ones and bad ones. You can't wipe them all out.
It also seems like that solution has not worked for anybody. Like, those areas that you see them in the future are all fucked up, and I don't think that just has to do with mutants. Like, I think that, and in the comic, at least the part that I read, it's like a serious, like, dystopian, like, society where technology has totally broken down.
Yeah, that's how you do a dystopian society, by the way.
Yes.
Everything's freaking destroyed. Like, there ain't no way out of this situation. Everything's destroyed. The only thing that works are these Sentinels. Like,
I feel like they're overdoing it. Like, I don't think it would be that bad. Like, it's not really a mutant anymore if everybody's a mutant. Like, if there are that many mutants that you have to destroy the whole world to kill them all, then it's not really mutants anymore. It's like,
well, I don't think they're destroying the world. I think the battle destroys the world, right? So the mutants are going to fight back, and while they're fighting back, you're destroying everything around you because these are powerful beings that the Sentinels are going up against, and the Sentinels are more than willing to destroy a building to kill a mutant. So,
but they didn't have to destroy a building. They just like wrecked a warehouse. Like, there really wasn't that much property damage done when they killed like what, 5 or 6 of them.
Oh, also a castle. It was like some sort of castle, and they destroyed it in China.
Yeah, that was in China.
And Russia.
I was asleep during that part. But
and you liked the movie. I'm confused.
I mean, it was no Spider-Man, but
it was no. All right, this is where we cut you off. This is where I'm cutting you off.
No.
All right, moving on. I'm cutting you off. You're not bringing Spider-Man into this topic. Moving on. Okay, so this.
I heard they're bringing a game out for it though on the Wii U.
Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry. What's the question? What's the question, Joe?
The question is, this movie presented a lot of, at least during the movie when I was watching it, I was thinking about all the continuity errors, and then they seemed to clear all that up by the end by essentially what seems like wiping out, at least in my opinion, wiping out all the X-Men movies.
Star Trek
and possibly, the Wolverine movies, now that I think about it.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys think? We'll start with Johanna. What you think?
I feel like I don't know enough about the whole to really judge. I can only judge based on the movies, which is, anything that erases Last Stand from the universe makes me very happy. This is something I was confused about. Rogue.
Uh-huh.
They feature Rogue at the end, and Rogue is holding Iceman's hand.
Yep.
And I'm confused as to how that can be. Just because, isn't her whole thing that she can't touch people? Maybe she was wearing gloves.
Was she wearing gloves? I think she was wearing gloves.
I couldn't tell. I think her hand was bare.
Yeah.
And I feel like for that moment to be so purposeful that she's like holding his hand makes me. But the thing is, like, if she didn't have her powers, then she wouldn't be there.
Right.
So that was one thing. Yeah, the Wolverine thing is completely destroyed. I don't know if this is supposed to be some attempt at. Did Bryan Singer direct any of the movies that weren't like that wasn't First Class?
He
No,
directed
he
X2,
directed the first two
yeah,
X-Men.
the first two X-Men and X2.
So all
Right.
the good ones,
Yep.
basically.
He didn't direct any
So, in
movies.
your opinion, the good ones, yeah.
I liked X-Men and X.
I liked X2. I did not care much for X-Men.
The first one, man. You had to be.
Yeah, you have you.
I liked it.
I did not care much for it, but
I
anyway.
haven't seen First Class, which as a result I do have to agree with Lorenzo that I did find some aspects of the movie a little confusing or hard to kind of catch up with. But yeah, in that case it's odd that he's just kind of wiped the slate clean in terms
Well,
of
it doesn't wipe
plotline.
out First Class, but
Okay, yeah.
to me it seems like it wipes out X-Men through The Last Stand, X-Men X2, The Last Stand, and
The Wolverine movies.
Wolverine to a certain extent.
Joe, how is it that it wipes out X-Men and X2? That's my question to you then.
Well, because now the whole timeline shifts now, right? So
Because
now she apparently she never turns into the Phoenix, right? So
that's
the
in
events
Last
in
Stand.
X2, which lead her to turn into the Phoenix, apparently never occurred, right? Because now she never became the Phoenix, which in turn would have turned her into Dark Phoenix.
She might. I mean, just because she's Jean Grey in that scene doesn't mean that in this timeline she doesn't become Phoenix or Dark Phoenix, right?
Well, we're back to 50 when Wolverine wakes up at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Well, his consciousness catches up. They're back to whatever 2023 or something like that, around there.
He would be in present time, so whatever time he was.
It wasn't 2014, right? Whatever time he went back. I believe it was 10 years from now, somewhere around there.
Well,
so whatever
But
year
why,
that was.
Why do you think it was 10 years from now?
Because when he was in the past, he said 50 years from now, this is what it's going to be like. And 50 years from 1973 is 2023. Right? So that's why I assume it's like 10 years. I'm just guessing. It's not perfect, but it's definitely not 2014 when the movie starts in Days of Future Past. It's not 2014. So,
but they've got like people like what's his name? Like Bobby. He's not 10 years older than he was.
Yeah.
Right? My other question: they don't look older. Except for Wolverine. Wolverine looks older because he's got the gray on the side. But everybody else doesn't look older, which I found funny. Why does Wolverine only have the gray hair, and Bobby Drake and Kitty Pryde, they don't look any older, except I think maybe they tried to make Bobby Drake a little older by giving him the beard. But other than that, he really didn't look much older. But Wolverine had the gray hair on the sides.
Which is funny.
They also look the same as they did when he first goes to the past. Like they all seem to look exactly the same that they did then.
Well, what do you mean?
So, like I said, I don't think that we can. So we can't assume that we can't assume that where it is that he comes back into. Your best assumption is by doing the math. But to me, Bobby looks exactly the way he did in the beginning of the movie when they're fighting the Sentinels. So it looks like he actually comes back to that time.
Right, but it's not 2014. That much.
I mean, it could be, right? Because it's just a different universe. Maybe the time, maybe Wolverine's not the best with math. It was, I mean, whatever. Who cares? I don't care.
Okay,
Right.
Johanna, the thing
Back
with
to the
the
same
thing with
timeline.
but
Bobby
you can
and
tell Wolverine was definitely
Rogue,
older because in the
I mean, just
future
because he has the
he
little
has the
gray
gray
on his
hair.
eyes, well,
Wait, wait.
he's had like a tough life. Like,
He
he's
didn't have gray
he's been
hair in Wolverine, which
persecuted.
came out last summer.
Well,
Wait,
yeah, but this is not last. This is a different timeline than the one that we've watched. This isn't
No,
the same. This isn't the timeline from the last 3 or 4 movies. This is a
how
totally
do you know
different.
that? Now it's
Because
separate
it
because
wouldn't it wouldn't make sense if he went back to that thing that happened in the 70s that made the present the way it was didn't happen.
okay, so then how come when Wolverine was mind was messing up, he saw flashes from the other movies?
Because he was, first of all, because this movie's ridiculous. Second of
But
all,
that's not an answer, Lorenzo. This movie is
I
ridiculous.
said second of all because he's like skipping, his mind is being warped and he's skipping through multiverses, and so he sees the universe that we've seen before in the past, but this isn't that universe, and the universe that he goes into isn't our universe. So this movie represents at least 3 different multiverses that we get to just take a quick peek at. The reason why they showed Rogue and uh, Iceman holding hands, she was wearing gloves. It was just that in Last Stand he took off with Kitty Pryde, and so they just undid that for whatever reason.
I'm sorry. I have spent years trying to block out that movie
Yeah, I mean,
in my head.
I think
Yeah,
you're
I
right,
got
Johan. A lot of this movie just seemed to serve the purpose of undoing that movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Seems like it undid.
I don't. So I
all
mean,
of
Joe, I don't think it undoes all of them because the whole thing is just because the Sentinel stuff doesn't happen in '73 doesn't necessarily mean that the X-Men that X-Men doesn't happen because it doesn't mean that Charles still doesn't start the school.
No, he does start the school. I'm not. No, certain
All that
events
stuff.
do happen. I mean, he's going to recruit the X-Men. They're all going to get together. What I'm saying is,
Right.
X2 doesn't happen. How does X2 happen? She's there when he comes back. Now we know he comes back after the events of The Last Stand, right? So, did she not turn in? She did not turn into Jean Grey. I mean, she did not turn into the Phoenix.
She turns into the Phoenix at the end of X2 to save everyone, and then she disappears.
Right. She disappears and comes
At the end
back,
of X2.
and she
But she
comes
does
back
come
as the
back.
Dark Phoenix.
Not right away,
She comes back in Last Stand.
but not right away as the Dark Phoenix. When she comes back initially, when she first comes back, she's not. If I remember correctly, like she doesn't just automatic. Like she comes back, she does that one dark thing, and yeah, I'm trying.
No, that's fine. But what I'm saying is, she turns into the Dark Phoenix in The Last Stand, right? She becomes Phoenix in X2, and then the story of the Dark Phoenix is in X3, right? So, but when Wolverine comes back, the Days of Future Past timeline is after The Last Stand. So when he comes back, Jean, Cyclops is alive. Professor X is alive. Well, again, that's a continuity problem. He shouldn't have been alive to begin with in the future.
It was a different time.
Then why is he seeing? Okay, so
So I think so.
None of those things
Here's what
happen.
I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying, Joe. I think that the entire movie, not just that last scene, but to me, the entire movie from the very beginning all the way through suggests that Last Stand never happened, and that the timeline that we're working with is only with what happened in X-Men, what happened in X.
how could you just say
It
erase one movie?
It just
You can't erase
divorces
one.
itself. It divorces itself from that entire storyline.
This is why I don't like these time traveling movies. Look, think about it, Joe. Okay, first of all, I don't even want to be having this conversation. Second of all, Patrick Stewart's character, Xavier, he gives up. Remember? He just gives up hope back in the day. Like, that didn't actually happen in the universe of the X-Men that we know.
We
None
don't
of
know
stuff
that.
actually happened in our X-Men universe.
We don't know that.
The stuff that happened in that universe happened in that dark dystopian universe, which is not the one that we know. It's a different one. The events just don't line up. It's you're saying it yourself when you're talking about the time and the 10 years thing and how, I mean, the fact is that Bobby was not 10 years older than he is in that. I mean, and Patrick Stewart, like, think about it. Did he ever shut down the school back in the 70s? Did any of that stuff ever happen?
No, it's a whole new story.
It's a whole new story. Exactly.
It's a story made up, but all the X stories are made up. So every movie is loosely based on stuff that happened in the comic book, but they're all just made up.
Right, but what I'm saying though is that the universe that we've watched for the last 6 X-Men movies, including the Wolverine movies, they aren't this movie. It just doesn't make sense that. I mean, think about it. I mean, Joe, admit it. It doesn't make sense that the Sentinel stuff that happened back in the 70s happened in the same universe that the last 6 movies happened.
I see what you're saying, but that was never explained that way. And
Right,
so you have to go with that Bryan Singer is messing with the same universe that he started back with the first X-Men movie.
But Joe, just respond to my point that if the stuff that happened in this movie, like the stuff that they were trying to prevent happening, actually did happen, and that Sentinel program went into full effect back in the 70s, then how did any of the other movies even happen?
No, well, I mean, it wasn't totally implemented in the... Well, it started in the 70s, but they didn't have the technology to really take it live until
No, they did have the technology to take it live. That was Peter Dinklage's whole thing, was that they did have the technology to bring it live, and then they went on to say that the whole attack, the whole rebellion, or the whole persecution of mutants, which I don't know, we get into in Last Stand, I guess, right? Is happens back in the 70s when Mystique, shoots Tyrion. So,
right,
the world that they're describing just isn't the world that we've seen for these last few movies. It's an alternate universe, and in
Bryan Singer and
universe,
nobody else has come out and said that this was supposed to be an alternate universe.
Nobody needs to say it? Joe, just think about it.
You need to explain that.
Don't deny the facts.
I'm not denying the facts. The point is, then why did Wolverine see glimpses from the other movies?
That wasn't what we saw in the first movie.
Why bother showing glimpses from the other movies then? When Wolverine's mind went.
I just said his mind is being ripped apart, whatever, and he is seeing all these different multiverses.
It was a way to connect the other films.
No,
that was the only reason.
It just makes no sense.
The only reason. It was the only reason to show those clips.
No,
I do have to say.
It's just like, why did they need to show all the other Rocky movies in Rocky 3? They didn't need to do that.
Because they were connected.
I do have to say, while you guys are catching your breath, that coming into the film and not having read the comics and not seeing Wolverine or First Class, I did find the beginning of the movie to be confusing, because it throws you into this thing that doesn't quite. It's right. It doesn't quite jive.
It is confusing, Johanna. It's not just you. It is confusing.
But Lorenzo liked it.
Yourself,
he liked the movie.
Problems.
I don't know.
The only explanation for all those continuity problems is
there are huge continuity problems.
What?
There are huge continuity problems.
You got finished saying how you were noticing all these continuity issues.
I said there are continuity issues
by the end of the film.
There are continuity issues. Why does Professor Xavier grow up with Mystique, but when in the very first X-Men movie he knows nothing about her?
Because it's a different universe.
It's not. I mean, you could say it's a different universe, but Fox and Bryan Singer have not come out and said it was a different universe. When I hear from them saying, oh, this is supposed to be a different timeline. No, they want to connect all these movies together. Hence, Wolverine's flashback to all the other movies.
You're like in denial, my man. You are in denial.
First of all, you said you were confused, convoluted, and you didn't understand the movie, but yet you liked it.
You're denying yourself, Joe.
I'm not denying myself.
You're going against what
Lorenzo, could you stop saying that you like this movie? Because you keep everything you say about it is bad. Except for Quicksilver. Except for Quicksilver.
All my heart. It's his best movie since Usual Suspects.
Ooh. Well, yes.
Yet you were confused, convoluted, and you didn't know what was going on. But yet this is Bryan Singer's best movie since Usual Suspects. Is that right?
I'm a Bryan Singer fan. What can I say?
And I guess you love Superman Returns as well.
Did I say that?
No, I'm just asking. Or, I'm assuming.
Yeah, you're assuming, and you know what they say about assuming.
It makes an ass out of you. Did you like Superman Returns?
No, it was kind of boring.
I want to tell you. Yeah. Okay. So, moving on.
I'd like to see the continued adventures of Superboy.
Yeah, Dean Cain is going to play Superboy. Don't worry about it. All right, so what you guys think about seeing Apocalypse at the end of the movie in the after credit scene?
Oh, that's who that was.
Yeah.
It made no sense to me.
Did you guys notice the Four Horsemen?
Yes, I did. Oh, I did definitely.
I missed it.
I didn't see who they were. All you saw was silhouettes of the Four Horsemen in the background. So there was no way of telling who the Four Horsemen were. I can't remember who they were during that time when he was first, I guess, resurrected, or when he first appeared.
Who, Apocalypse?
Yeah, when he first appears, I don't know who his original Four Horsemen were.
Oh yeah.
It was
kind of.
Okay, so I know that there's the Apocalypse movie coming out, but other than that, how would you know that was Apocalypse?
Because the Apocalypse is blue.
But he looks totally different than that.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was kind of.
He doesn't look like a man. He looks like a big scary alien.
He's a child. He's like a kid.
He's a mutant zero. He's the first mutant ever.
Yeah.
That scene reminded me of Stargate.
When he's creating the temples and everything like that.
Yeah.
Creating the pyramids.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. I'm looking forward to the Age of Apocalypse movie.
So now here's my question for you, Joe. Which was a better end credit scene, the Apocalypse scene at the end of X-Men, or the Thanos scene at the end of the Avengers? Because so before you answer, I'll say that the Apocalypse scene, well, the Thanos scene, I didn't see that coming. A lot of people didn't see it coming, when we were in the theater, just not for nothing, it got the same reaction. The Apocalypse scene got the same reaction in this movie that the Thanos scene got at the end of Avengers in the theaters that I was at, in both theaters that I was at. Both of them were like, what the hell? Who the hell is that? What's going on? And then some people were like, oh, yeah, this is going to rock. So.
Yeah. I'm gonna go Apocalypse only because I love the X-Men. I'm more of an X-Men fan than I am Avengers fan.
Okay.
That's why a lot of the X-Men movies just hurt me when I watch them. But yeah, I mean, I had already read about the next movie, that they're planning on doing the Age of Apocalypse. So I already kind of knew that when I saw it, I was like, okay, that must be Apocalypse, even though it doesn't look like the Apocalypse that's in the comic books. This one looked more human, like where Apocalypse is like, looks much bigger than what they showed at the end of the credits there. But yeah, I am definitely looking forward to seeing an X-Men movie with the Apocalypse as the main villain. I'm tired of Magneto, so I'm sure they'll bring him in for. Obviously, Michael Fassbender will probably be in it.
Oh, they're going to need Magneto against Apocalypse.
Yeah, but Apocalypse is all powerful. You can't he's hard to stop. um, but yeah, I hope they bring Angel into it so he could turn him into Archangel. Um, so yeah, I'm hoping those kind of things happen. But I don't think they. I think that I mean I know the name of the next movie is called Age of Apocalypse, but I don't think it's going to be the actual Age of Apocalypse storyline, um, which was an awesome storyline in the X-Men comics. If you guys ever read it, um, so I'm anxious to see what they come up with.
Yeah, that Age of Apocalypse storyline is freaking crazy.
Yeah, it was awesome, and I don't think they could do it in just one movie. Um, so I think they'll just be fighting Apocalypse.
Yeah, and I don't think that they plan on doing more than just the one movie,
Yeah,
the one more X-Men movie. After that, I don't know what their next plan is.
yeah. So yeah, but I'm looking forward to it. So now what are the chances of Wolverine being in that movie? Because
He's already signed on.
oh god, I'm getting tired of him.
You can't have an X-Men movie and not have Wolverine attached to it.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
know,
possible.
but he just takes up too much of the movie. I mean, it shouldn't be all about Wolverine.
I mean,
Uh,
I don't think he was. Honestly, I think with this movie, he really wasn't a huge factor in it. Like he was the driver in the car, but for the most part, a lot of the movie focused around, and for good reason. A lot of the movie to me focused around Mystique. I thought Mystique was really the big character in this entire film.
yeah, I mean, they split screen time. I mean, like Wolverine was like almost in every scene.
But what I mean is he might have been there. Like he's in every scene, but is he a vital factor? Is he a vital point? I think if you took the characters and you rated the characters in terms of their impact on the film itself or the impact on the action of what was going on, I think you would start at Mystique, then obviously Magneto, just from a mutant perspective. Magneto, you're talking, then Professor X, and then I mean it's a toss up between Wolverine and Beast, who are the next two guys, because they really don't have. He doesn't really have an impact on anything that really happens except for just kind of being there and like talking to Professor Xavier when he's given up on the world, or trying to figure out how to get Magneto to play ball. Like he realizes he can't fight them on this level. There's no way. I'm not beating Professor X, and I damn sure ain't beating Magneto. So, and so anytime I do try to fight it, it doesn't work. So to me, I actually didn't mind. This is probably the one movie, where I really didn't mind Wolverine's character in this, because, like I said, he's there, but he's not really
No, I see what you're saying.
playing. He's not playing in this. This is, he's clearly a AAA player in the major leagues. Like, yeah, clearly you can't play on this stage.
Yeah, that's why I wish they would have sent like Bishop back. I mean, they would have to send his whole body back because he didn't exist back then. But I think that would have been cooler if they would use some kind of transportation device. So they would have changed since they changed the story anyway. They should have just went for the whole thing and just said, you know what, kind of like Skynet with the Terminators. They come up with some kind of time traveling device and they send Bishop back.
Flux capacitor, baby.
That's right.
I would sign on to that.
I think if you were going to change it, they might as well just gone all the way and changed it. But yeah, it was cool. So real quick, we're running out of time. For those of us who've read the comic version and seen the movie version, I know Johanna's in the middle of it. Real quick, which version did you prefer? Did you prefer the comic version so far, or are you liking the movie version?
So far, I think it's more like the different parts. Like, for example, I like the introduction to the dystopian world at the beginning. I liked how they were able to really flesh it out, and I mean, it was maybe like 10 panels, and really put you there. and really gave you that context because, like I said, that I felt like the movie really didn't do that very well. But I do have to say that beginning scene in the training room was a little campy.
Hmm.
So I wasn't a super fan of that, and I think that that's really what I've gotten so far. That, and I like the fact that it was, and I don't know her name, is the one who takes her back. I thought that was
Oh,
really,
Rachel Summers.
yeah. I don't know that much about her, but I thought it was cool. I felt like there's one more thing that I liked about it. Storm. I like the Storm that Storm is like has kind of like a leadership role, or at the very least is kind of like this guiding figure for Kitty.
Right. And Lorenzo, I think you've done both, right?
No, I've never read the series. I'm not a big
Oh, really?
X-Men guy. Yeah, I was never really a big X-Men guy. They just had too much what's the word?
Exposition.
Thank you. Exposition regarding like powers and why molecules do this and why this guy can do that and whatever. It just seemed like a bunch of mumbo jumbo when I was a kid reading this stuff. No, I much prefer Spider-Man. And
Spider-Man.
if you got Iceman, I want him like just hanging out with Spider-Man. I thought they made a
And,
good
and,
team.
and Firestar, right?
I like their friendship, and then I like Firestar hanging out with them all. Like it was just like a bunch of buddies, you know. That's what I liked about Spider-Man and his friends. They were buddies, they were pals, and they just had fun
And he was hanging out with two former X-Men.
and saved the world. Yeah. So as long as the X-Men are with Spider-Man, then I like them.
Saving the world.
On
All
their own, I'm looking at my collection of comic books, and there's not a ton of X-Men in my collection.
Spider-Man
Yeah,
and
it's
his
about
friends. Saving the world.
Spider-Man and his amazing
Mm-hmm.
friends.
Yeah, saving the world before fourth period Spanish.
There you go. At Empire State University.
I mean, come on! I was reading comics when I was like in middle school and in high school. That was what was going on. Like Spider-Man was pretty dark back in the 90s. That was I guess the new Amazing Spider-Man reboot that they did. I don't know if it was a reboot, but it was one of the newer books back then. Um, there was a lot going on in the Marvel universe that didn't involve the X-Men for me. I mean, honestly, I don't know really what the problem was. It was like kind of like one of those soap operas where you feel like you got if you jump into it at a certain point, you just don't know what the hell is going on. It was sort of like that. Like X-Men was just like kind of a big telenovela for me growing up.
It's the equating X-Men to a telenovela, and it's the first I've heard of that.
Uh,
But and Malik, you've never read the old one, right?
I have
The
read
Days of
the old one. I realize that I have read the old one.
Okay.
I don't remember it very well. And I just sent you guys a link recently. The one that I was talking about from the animated series was actually called Days of Future Past. It was a two-episode arc that was pretty much it was based on the comic story of the same name. The the Kitty Pryde's role was instead Bishop. So Bishop assumed the Kitty Pryde role from the comic, and his tale, just like Kitty Pryde's reasoning for being back into the past, was to find a traitor within the ranks of the X-Men. So it was the same story, just kind of following Bishop. And if anybody wants to go back and take a look, I believe you can find the episodes. You can even find the episodes to the X-Men animated series on YouTube. It's episodes 11 and 12, Days of Future Past, Part 1 and Part 2. Where you can go back and see those episodes, and then you can kind of compare those episodes to the movie, if you want to go back that far, because it does, like I said, those episodes of that show really have an impact, or you can tell that Singer was watching that when he was making this movie, or he had seen that when he was making this movie, because the connections are well throughout both of those episodes. Um, so I would say, I mean, just ideally, you know, I'm not just like Lorenzo. I'm not a huge fan of Back to the Future, going to the past to change the
Hold on,
future.
let me just say that I really like Back to the Future.
I knew he was gonna come
Of
and say
course.
that as soon
Of
as you
course.
said it.
I'm not. So ideally, I'm not a fan of that type of genre, just because I feel like it creates more questions than answers. And you really wind up trying to figure out, well, did this really happen? Did that really happen? And how things play out. And so, whenever you're doing this, it's going to I guess, cause more questions than it answers. And that said, this does even worse, just because of the simple fact of the previous movies that we've already seen and the continuity issues that were happening all throughout this X-Men saga. So it doesn't help it in any way, shape, or form, other than divorcing you from X-Men: The Last Stand, which kudos to Bryan Singer for being able to do that. Um, so I don't know if I like or dislike one over the other. I think that the comics, just because they are the source material, they're more well written, and the stories are more fleshed out. And I think that this movie, while the action's clearly there, there are some huge plot holes that never really get filled, but it's still fun and entertaining. So I'd still say, if you get a chance, read the comics first, and then come back and watch the movie. But yeah. So I would go with the comics over the movie, even though I think both of them, definitely, when you're dealing with time travel, it's a slippery slope.
Yes, and I love the movie. And I just wish it took more of the comic element into account, where the actual X-Men were fighting Mystique and her new Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. I think it would have been a lot cooler if you had two teams going against each other. Um, you know, that means they would have had to bring up the timeline to not 1973, but maybe to the 80s, or back to the timeline when the first X-Men took place. But that didn't happen. I'm totally fine with the movie that we got. I like I said, I enjoyed it. I just wish it had more of the comic element in it. Um, yeah, I probably like the comic book story a little bit better, but I did really enjoy the movie. Having said that, I really did enjoy the movie. But yeah, any last words?
See it if you haven't yet. Go out, see it, enjoy it. I'd say watch First Class first. I don't think that you have to
Yes.
have seen. I don't think you have to have seen the first X-Men, X2, or X3, or Last Stand.
No, but definitely First Class.
Definitely First Class. Maybe one of the Wolverine movies, just to kind of get an overview of who the hell the Wolverine character is, if you really want to, but you don't have to. But definitely watch First Class, and then watch this movie, and enjoy it. But definitely, it's a good movie. It's a lot of fun. Like you guys said, the Quicksilver scene is awesome. Not as good as the Nightcrawler scene in X2, but definitely on par with that scene. And it's just really, really fun. I mean, I'm glad this is one of those summer movies. This, and along with Captain America, are so far my favorite two summer blockbuster films. I'm still waiting to be blown away, but if these are the only two I get, I'll be a little upset. But I'm
Maybe
better
Guardians
now.
of the Galaxy will blow you away.
I'm ready for that. I'm ready to be blown away by that. But I mean, if these are the only two, I'll still be a little upset. But at least it's more than just Captain America, which came out in April.
Cool.
And Joe says it's not an actual summer movie.
It's not. But we'll let it go, Malik. We're gonna let that go.
Thank you, Joe.
Lorenzo, any last words?
At the Alpine over here in Bay Ridge, they have $6 movies on Wednesdays. They are currently showing Days of Future Past. I think if you watch it for $6, you'll really like it.
again, and you liked this movie, right?
I thought it was definitely worth $6.
Okay, Johanna.
It's super, super, super entertaining. Other than, I mean, I did have those issues with the diversity, but other than that, I couldn't help but just be thoroughly entertained by it. It's funny. There are great action sequences. I don't get out of the theaters much, but I did go out for this one, and I didn't regret it. I really didn't. It was super entertaining.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for a great show. And you podcast listeners out there, thanks for listening. Tune in next week for our next episode of the Agents of Helm. With that, actually, before I go, Johanna, tell us what should we be looking out for?
Right.
Where can they reach us?
So thanks for tuning into the Agents of Helm. Just wanted to give a quick rundown of our social media outlets. We've got agentsofhelm.com. You can listen to the podcast, watch unedited YouTube versions of the podcast, read articles like How Google Took Over the World and We Are All Going to Die No Matter What You Do or Where We Live. Access some of our social media feeds, and for the rest of them, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and Pinterest under the name Agents of Helm. No spaces, no periods.
All right. Thank you, Johanna. And with that, I want to say till the next time. Good night, everyone.
Good night.